There is a silence so deep, it lives inside everything. Not the silence of a room emptied of sound, nor the hush that follows a snowfall, but a different kind. The silence beneath the world, beneath the fabric of things, where particles move in ways that don't make sense and yet somehow feel like a dance. At this smallest level of reality, there are no footsteps, no echoes, no gravity pulling down. There are only chances, whispers, and waves folding in on themselves. This is the quantum world, so small, so still, and yet filled with emotion unlike any other. A motion that doesn't follow the rules we know. A motion that slips between what is and what could be. You might imagine a tiny particle, so small that it isn't really in one place. It's more like a cloud or a thought half-formed drifting across the idea of space. We call it an electron, but even that name feels too solid, too certain. Because this thing does not behave like anything you can hold. One moment it seems like a particle. The next it behaves like a wave. It can go through one door or two at the same time. It can exist and not exist, depending on whether you look at it. Just imagine that. A world where watching changes reality, where attention creates presence, where the act of seeing something makes it become something. This is the strange heartbeat of quantum physics, and it is always beating, even now. Far beneath your feet, in the atoms of your bones, in the light that touches your skin, this dance is happening. It is quiet and endless, and it has always been. Imagine a beam of light split through a pair of slits. The particles of light, photons, go forward and they paint a pattern that says, I am a wave, I spread, I ripple, I interfere with myself. But if you stand there, if you try to measure it, the pattern changes. The photons say, I am a particle, I choose a path, I become certain. As if the universe cannot decide who it is until someone asks. As if reality waits to be questioned before it answers. This idea has troubled and delighted physicists for over 100 years. What does it mean for something to be both a particle and a wave? What does it mean for a particle to go through two doors at once? What does it mean that a particle might not exist until we look for it? These are not just riddles. They are truths wrapped in soft fog, truths we feel more than fully understand. Quantum mechanics is not a puzzle we solve. It is a language we learn to whisper in. It is a forest of maybe, a river of perhaps, a sky full of potential. You cannot force it to explain itself. You must drift into it gently. Even the great minds Einstein, Bohr, Schrödinger struggled to accept this silent world. Schrödinger imagined a cat in a box, a cat both alive and dead until someone looks. It wasn't meant to be real. It was meant to show how absurd this all was. And yet the math says it's possible, not for cats perhaps, but for the tiny threads that make up our world. Superposition, they call it. The idea that something can be in more than one state at once. That a particle can be spinning both clockwise and counterclockwise. That it can be both here and there until the universe decides, or until you do. Imagine walking into a field of tall grass. Every blade could bend in 100 ways. But the moment you step, only one path is pressed down. The rest remain only possibilities. That is what it's like, this quantum realm. A world of possibility that collapses into certainty when touched. It's like dreaming and waking at once. Like a coin spinning in the air, never landing until someone calls heads or tails. And still, the coin isn't really spinning in the usual way. It's spinning in ways you can't imagine. It's spinning through dimensions you cannot name. And still it is quiet. Still it is calm. Some physicists say this dance is about probability. That the universe is not fixed but flavored with chance. That nothing is ever certain until the last possible moment. That the world we live in is stitched together from maybes, sewn tight by the act of observation. It's not just poetic, it's mathematical. The equations predict it. They describe particles as waves of probability. They describe locations as fuzzy. They describe energy as a kind of music, humming softly in hidden places. And these equations work. They work better than anything else we've ever tried. They help us build lasers, computers, and telescopes, but still, they don't quite explain why. You can almost feel it now, the way particles lean toward a choice, the way they wait for the world to notice, the way your attention might reach backward into the quiet and draw out something real. It's as if reality is listening, waiting like a pond waiting for a pebble. And every time we look, we are that pebble. We send ripples into what was once still. We ask the universe a question, and it answers with a single result, but only after holding every possible answer inside it. And that is the mystery, that the world is not made of things but of possibilities, that matter is not solid but soft until it chooses, until you do. In this silent dance, even time becomes strange. Particles seem to communicate faster than light. They seem to know what others are doing, even when far apart. It's called entanglement, a word that sounds like love. Two particles once touched remain connected no matter how far they drift. One spins and the other spins the opposite way, as if remembering each other. As if saying, I know you, I still remember, I still care. And even though no signal passes between them, they remain in step. This is the whisper between things. This is the song beneath silence. Now let yourself imagine you are one of those particles, not bound by place, not tied to one path, floating between what is and what could be. You are a cloud of possibility, a gentle curve on a graph, a softness in the air. You are unseen until seen, unknown until known. And still you are real, still you matter. Because the strange world of quantum physics is not far away. It is here. It is in you. You are made of this mystery. You are born of this silence. And as you lie still, as you breathe, as you listen, you are part of the dance. You are dancing too. So rest now in the hush of electrons, in the wave of the unseen. Let the quantum world hold you gently. Let it be enough that not everything must be understood. Let wonder be your pillow and curiosity your blanket. Let go of answers. Let the particles drift. Let the silence speak. Let the world beneath the world carry you, softly, into sleep. Let's drift deeper now, into the fabric of this mysterious dance, where meaning unfolds not in lines and borders but in soft ripples that stretch beyond sight. Quantum physics is not just about particles, it's about possibilities blooming in the quiet. It's about the strangeness inside ordinary things. A chair, a leaf, your breath in the morning, each is built from the same uncertain, invisible threads. Beneath their stillness, particles quiver with uncertainty, with chance, with the whisper of choice not yet made. They don't follow our rules. They don't line up neatly. Instead, they form a world made of shadows and chance, stitched together by a logic that hums instead of speaks. In this realm, the ordinary becomes magical. Imagine a single photon, a sliver of light. You could think of it like a grain of sand, but that would be too simple. Because a photon doesn't just move from one place to another. It exists in every possible path it could take all at once until one path becomes real. It's as if time itself must wait, holding every possibility gently until a choice is made. This is not fiction. It's what we see in the laboratory. Even when we try to pin a photon down, it slips sideways, becoming wave and particle, solid and soft, now and later. And all the while it is real. Physicists call this the principle of superposition, the idea that things can exist in multiple states at once. It's not just a theory, it's an unfolding truth. It happens in electrons, photons, atoms. It's been seen, measured, tested. And though it sounds impossible, the universe insists it's real. You can almost imagine a tree made of maybe, a breath made of both inhale and exhale, a world made of perhaps. It's not unstable, it's beautiful. Because in superposition, the universe is not confused. It is patient. It waits. It allows all things to be possible until the moment they are not, until a single future is chosen. But what does it mean, really, for something to be more than one thing at once? Maybe we can understand it through nature. Think of the clouds, light and shifting, they hold shape and formlessness at once. Or think of a seed in the soil. Inside it lies not just a plant, but every possible plant it could become, curled gently inside its shell. Or think of a caterpillar dreaming in its cocoon, body becoming mist, rearranging, remembering how to be a butterfly. These are not quantum phenomena, but they echo the same softness. They remind us that nature, too, understands patience and change, that the universe is not in a rush to become just one thing. And there is more. Deeper still, particles do not even seem to have fixed locations. An electron does not sit in one spot like a pebble on a road. Instead, it exists as a cloud of probability, a blur, a shimmer, a presence not quite placed. It is there but also not exactly. It is near but not pinned down. You cannot say it is here. Only, it is likely here. This is called the uncertainty principle. It tells us that the more we know about a particle's position, the less we know about its motion, and vice versa. It's not a flaw in our tools, it's a truth of nature. The universe is not lost, it is veiled. And somehow within this veil, connections bloom. Quantum entanglement shows us that particles can be linked in ways we do not yet fully grasp, not by wires, not by signals, but by shared history, by a moment when they touched. Two particles born from the same event remain tied together. Measure one and the other changes two instantly, even across great distances. It's like a secret memory they share, like the echo of a song only they can hear. And though they drift apart in space, something between them remains whole, something that does not need space to travel, something faster than speed, softer than thought. You might imagine this entanglement as a thread, invisible but strong, linking the hearts of particles across the stars. One vibrates, the other feels it. One spins, the other turns to match, and no one knows how. There is no message, no delay, it just happens. It is as if the particles are not truly separate, as if space itself cannot separate them, as if underneath distance lies unity. This connection, quiet and instant, makes us wonder, could the universe be more connected than it seems? Could everything be part of one great unfolding, like branches from the same tree, leaves touched by the same wind? Quantum physics does not answer with certainty. It answers with wonder. It shows us that the smallest parts of the universe are not made of bricks but of whispers. It shows us that certainty is a late visitor, possibility arrives first. And in this strange dance there is a lesson, that we too are made of soft decisions, that we too are born from uncertainty. Our thoughts, our feelings, our choices, all emerge from a brain built on these same quantum particles. Every memory you hold, every dream you drift through, is touched by particles that have never stopped shimmering. Some scientists wonder, does quantum physics shape our minds? Could superposition explain thought or creativity or consciousness itself? These are not easy questions. They drift on the edge of science and philosophy, but the curiosity is real. The human brain is a delicate web of signals and sparks, millions of neurons, billions of particles, all firing, changing, remembering. Could it be that the brain's magic comes not from one spark, but from all the maybes held before the spark happens? That thought is not a step, but a possibility collapsing into reality. Even the act of choice, so simple to us, may not be so solid. When you decide to speak or move or wonder, perhaps your mind, too, is dancing with chance. Perhaps you are, in some small way, a wave becoming a particle, a field of options gently choosing a path. And if that's true, then every action is sacred. Every word is a moment where the universe folds inward to become real. Every feeling is the result of silent particles touching, moving, collapsing together like falling leaves. And that, too, is beautiful. Outside, the world may seem still, but inside, in the smallest places, a storm of gentle change never ends. The fabric of the world is stitched with uncertainty. The atoms of your hands are made of motion and music, and though you may not see them, the particles continue to dance. Every second they choose again, every breath they hum with the rhythm of maybe, and that rhythm is not chaos. It is the softness of choice. It is the hush between the stars. It is the language of a universe still being written. So as you lie in stillness, wrapped in thought and breath, remember the truth beneath your skin. You are not made of answers. You are made of questions. You are made of shimmer, of chance, of possibility. The world does not press down upon you. It opens gently beneath you, offering path after path. You are not lost. You are unfolding. You are entangled with everything. And the dance continues always in silence and light. Now let the curtain fall softly on this strange, silent world. Let us not rush the ending, but arrive slowly as one does at the edge of a dream. Quantum physics, with all its paradoxes and mysteries, has never tried to force itself into clarity. Instead, it waits. It lets us circle around it like a tide around an island, brushing gently at its edges, never quite reaching the center. And maybe that is the point. Some truths are not for grasping. Some truths are for resting inside. The quantum world does not beg for understanding. It invites a kind of surrender, a letting go of control, a leaning into wonder. The particles still dance even when we look away. They move not because they must, but because possibility is their nature. They shimmer and shift, choosing, unchoosing, collapsing and rising, like breath, like memory, like the soft way a leaf turns in the wind. Even in the deepest parts of space where stars are born in silence, the quantum world pulses. Even in the cold emptiness between galaxies, electrons flicker. They do not need a watcher to be real. But somehow, the act of watching makes them more real, more certain, more here. And so, perhaps, do we. We are made of these particles. Every cell, every thought, every slow heartbeat. The bones in your fingers, the warmth behind your eyes, the soft ache of remembering something long ago, all of it is built from this unseen dance. We are not separate from the quantum world. We are the quantum world, looking back at itself with gentle eyes. And when we feel uncertain, when we drift between emotions, between choices, between dreams, we are only echoing what the particles have always known. That to be alive is to be uncertain. That to be real is to be in motion. In the quiet of night, you might think back to that double-slit experiment, the one where light behaves like a wave and a particle, the one where looking changes the outcome. It seems like magic, but it's not. It's nature wearing its most mysterious face. And yet beneath that mystery lies something human, something familiar. Haven't we all changed the moment someone looked at us with love? Haven't we all become something else when attention was given, when care was offered? The quantum world whispers this truth too, that presence matters, that attention shapes reality, that observation is not just science, it is kindness unfolding. There are those who study quantum physics not to build machines, but to understand the nature of existence. They see the mathematics as music, the probabilities as poetry. They speak of fields and functions, of entanglement and collapse, but underneath it all is awe. Underneath it all is the realization that we do not command the universe. We are held by it, cradled in uncertainty, touched by laws that are stranger than fiction and softer than logic. The deeper we look, the more we find a world that refuses to be pinned down, a world that prefers to be felt rather than solved. And still we try. With lasers, with atoms, with crystals that catch the shimmer of electrons. We cool particles close to absolute zero, watch them dance in slow motion, see their waveforms stretch across tiny spaces. In these experiments there is a kind of prayer, a reaching out into the invisible, a hope that by watching we might learn not just how the universe works, but why it feels the way it does, why it moves with such elegance, such restraint, why something so small can hold so much beauty. Some say this beauty is accidental, that the universe is cold, random, indifferent, but even randomness has patterns, even chance has rhythm, and when we step back far enough, when we listen instead of measure, we begin to hear something else, a harmony beneath the equations, a quiet coherence that holds it all together. Perhaps it is not that the quantum world is confusing. Perhaps it is that we are just beginning to learn its language, a language of stillness, of shadows, of presence without form. Think now of entanglement once more, those particles that remain connected no matter how far they drift. What would it mean if everything at the start of time was entangled? If the Big Bang scattered not just matter but memory? If we are still, in some delicate way, connected to the stars, to each other? Maybe this is not just metaphor. Maybe it is science waiting to be seen differently. Maybe the love we feel, the ache of missing someone, the pull of the moon, are all echoes of connections that never truly broke. The quantum world reminds us there is more than what we see. There is depth in the invisible, there is life in the silence, and though we may never map every thread of it, we can live by its rhythm. We can be more gentle, more open, more curious. We can accept that uncertainty is not the enemy. It is the space where wonder grows. It is the doorway to new possibilities. And like the particle in superposition, we, too, are more than one thing. We are strength and softness. We are doubt and faith. We are becoming always. So rest now, knowing that the universe is not a machine grinding forward with rigid certainty. It is a sea of chances, a field of dreams, a quiet garden where particles bloom and vanish like petals on the wind. You are part of that garden. You are one of its flowers. You are both the wave and the watcher, the question and the answer. And every moment you exist, you add to the unfolding, the choosing, the quiet dance that never ends. Let the last thoughts of this journey settle softly in your mind. Feel the hum of possibility in your chest, the entangled memory of stars in your bones. The world beneath the world is not hard or cold. It is soft and silent and listening. And as you drift now into stillness, may you feel that silence not as emptiness but as a gentle presence. As the place where particles dance and choices bloom and nothing becomes something, just for you. Light has always felt like magic. It slips across the skin of the world with no weight, no sound, only warmth and shimmer. We open our eyes and light is already there, touching leaves, dancing in dust, wrapping the morning in gold. But what is light really? For all its gentleness, it holds a secret far deeper than the color of the sky. Because light in its truest form forgets who it is. It forgets if it is a particle or a wave. Sometimes it travels like a tiny grain, sharp and fast. Sometimes it spreads like a ripple on a still pond. It does both. It does neither. It waits to be asked, and even then it hesitates before answering. In the quiet halls of physics, this forgetting is not a flaw, it is the core of light's mystery. A photon, the smallest spark of light, moves with a question in its heart. It is born from fire, from stars, from electric hums. But as it flies, it wears two faces. One is a particle, a point, a dot on a screen. The other is a wave, wide and smooth, filling space with crests and dips. When we try to measure it, to pin it down, it picks one. But when we leave it alone, it floats in between. This duality is not just an idea. It is written in experiment after experiment, etched into the fabric of how our world behaves. Picture again the double-slit experiment, gentle and strange. A beam of light aimed at a barrier with two narrow slits. What should happen is simple. The light goes through one slit or the other, but it does more. It goes through both. It interferes with itself, forming a pattern like ripples overlapping on water, a pattern of light and shadow, of presence and pause. But if we place detectors to see which slit each photon passes through, the pattern changes. The interference disappears. Light no longer acts like a wave. It becomes a stream of particles, as though the act of watching causes the light to remember its shape, as though uncertainty is erased by attention. How can something behave in two opposite ways at once? How can it be here and there, spread out and precise, dancing and still? The answer may lie not in what light is, but in what it is allowed to be. In the quantum world, things do not exist in rigid form. They hold multiple truths, like seeds holding future trees, like dreams holding many endings. Light, too, holds every path it might take. It travels all of them until the world insists on one. Until we ask it, "Where have you been?" And then, only then, does it choose. The rest of its paths fade like soft footprints in sand. Even Einstein, the poet of physics, was dazzled by light's nature. He saw its particle heart, the photon, as a carrier of energy, discrete and indivisible. He showed us that light can knock electrons from metal, an effect that only makes sense if light arrives in packets. This was the photoelectric effect, and it helped unlock a door to the quantum realm. And yet, at the same time, Maxwell's equations describe light as waves, fields dancing with each other, electric and magnetic. These are not mistakes. They are both true. Light holds contradiction without conflict. It is a paradox we live inside every day. The sun pours photons across the earth without sound, without pause. Each one has traveled for millions of years, leaving the core of a burning star, passing through empty space, brushing the edge of planets and moons. Some find their way to your cheek, to a tree's leaf, to a child's closed eyelids at dawn. And yet each of these photons arrives with uncertainty folded into it. Until it touches, it is many paths at once. Until it meets your skin, it has forgotten its shape. And still it knows how to give life. Plants open their arms to it, transforming its energy into sugars, into wood, into breath. We eat that light in apples, in grains, in honey. The light that once forgot its shape becomes part of us, becomes our warmth, our steps, our words. In this way, light teaches us that even the most uncertain things can nourish, that even questions can feed the body, that mystery is not emptiness. It is abundance, not yet measured. Light also bends. It does not travel in perfect lines when it moves through water or glass. It slows, it curves, it shifts. Rainbows appear when light is bent and separated, its colors unfolded like a song across the sky. But even here, the bending is not just physical, it is also a memory. A memory of how light was touched, of how it changed course, of how it responded to the presence of another thing. Refraction, reflection, diffraction. Each is light's response to its surroundings. Each is a kind of conversation, soft and quiet. And when we look deeper, into the strange field equations, into the photons bouncing through vacuum, we see that light never truly rests. It flickers, it pulses. Even in darkness, photons pop into being and vanish again. Virtual particles, they are called, ghosts of energy, moments of light that blink into reality for just long enough to matter. They remind us that even emptiness is full of motion, that even silence has sound if only we listen closely enough. As we move through our world, we are always surrounded by light, but it is not always seen. Infrared warms our skin, ultraviolet paints the wings of butterflies, X-rays slip through bone, gamma rays pulse from distant stars. All of it is light, wearing different frequencies, different faces. Some of it we feel, some of it we know only through machines, and yet all of it forgets its shape. All of it holds this secret dance between being and becoming. Perhaps then we are like light, not just in the way we are made of energy, but in how we shift, in how we adapt, in how we sometimes do not know who we are until someone sees us, until we are asked to choose. We too hold contradictions. We too bend when we pass through something new. We change when watched. We behave differently in love, in sorrow, in hope. We are waves when alone. We are particles when seen. Let yourself feel the stillness in that thought, that you are not one thing, that your nature is not fixed, that like light you are soft until defined, that your potential is wide. And though the world may press upon you, though life may demand clarity, you carry within you every path not taken, every shape you've ever forgotten, every gentle curve of possibility, like photons resting in the palm of time, waiting to become. So let the light drift through you now. Let it wash across your thoughts, your memories, your breath. You do not need to understand it fully. You only need to feel it, to trust that even when unseen, it is still there, dancing, bending, remembering how to shine. Let's sink more deeply now into the hush where light wanders, into the space between thoughts where something weightless touches everything. Light is not just what we see, it is what allows us to see. It does not carry sound, yet it tells stories. It does not push, yet it moves galaxies. In the world of the very small, it is a quantum traveler. In the vast silence of space, it is a cosmic messenger. And yet it slips through your fingers, leaves no trace on your skin, holds no shape you can hold. It forgets itself to become everything else: color, warmth, growth, memory. It is the brushstroke behind all that lives. Light travels differently than anything else we know. It moves at the fastest speed allowed by nature, not as a limit but as a law. Nothing outruns it, nothing gets ahead of it, and because of this it becomes a bridge between moments. When you look at the stars, you are not seeing them now. You are seeing them as they once were. Their light has taken years, sometimes centuries, sometimes eons, to reach you. What you see is history arriving in silence. What you feel is time, glowing faintly on your skin. The stars may be gone, but their light remembers. And in this memory there is tenderness. Light does not age the way we do. It leaves its source and travels endlessly unless something stops it. And if nothing touches it, no mirror, no eye, no wall, then it carries on pure and untouched for as long as the universe exists. Imagine that. A photon leaving the sun today may one day glide through the icy rings of Saturn, bounce from the dust of a comet, slip past a wandering planet, and still shine into darkness. Light does not demand to be seen. It simply continues quietly until it is received. But when it does touch something, when it meets an atom, a surface, a gaze, it changes. It gives energy. It becomes real in a different way. A leaf absorbs it and begins photosynthesis. A flower opens, a fruit grows, a retina stirs, and an image forms. Light is not passive. It carries power not in weight but in transformation. It changes things by arriving, by simply being there. Its presence alone causes a shift. And so we begin to understand that light is not just a tool. It is a thread woven into the fabric of change. When Einstein showed us that light is made of photons, discrete quanta of energy, he also showed us that energy and mass are tied together, that E equals mc squared, that matter can become energy and energy can become matter. That light, which once seemed so soft and untouchable, might one day give birth to particles. In the right conditions, in the early fire of the cosmos, light became the building blocks of everything. And even now, in the hearts of stars, light emerges from fusion, from burning, from the pressures of time itself. And so it is everywhere, in the rustling leaves, in your warm breath, in the laughter of children and the heartbeat of oceans. Still, light does not always move freely. In dense places, in the centers of stars, in thick clouds of dust, it gets trapped. It bounces, turns, waits. A single photon born at the sun's core may take thousands of years to reach the surface. It travels just inches at a time, bumping and scattering, choosing a new direction with every moment. It is patient. It is quiet. It does not resist. And finally, when it emerges from the surface, it races across space in just over 8 minutes to reach Earth. You feel it as warmth on your hand, but that warmth is ancient. That warmth is a long journey made visible. And yet even here on Earth, light continues to forget its shape. Sometimes it behaves as a wave, spreading and overlapping, creating patterns in water and glass. Other times it behaves as a particle striking sensors, releasing electrons, bouncing like a ball. But the truth is more fluid than either. Light is neither and both. A photon is not a marble or a ripple. It is a possibility, a packet of probability, shaped by how we ask the question. When we treat it like a wave, it behaves like one. When we treat it like a particle, it responds accordingly. This is not trickery. It is nature's soft refusal to be simplified. Even more mysterious are the places light cannot escape. In the deep wells of gravity, such as black holes, light is drawn in completely. Once it crosses the event horizon, the point of no return, it cannot come back. Not because it loses energy, but because space itself bends inward so sharply that all paths curve down. And so, inside a black hole, light is trapped in silence. It no longer remembers how to move forward. It is as though time stands still and all directions lead inward. We cannot see inside. We can only guess. The light does not reach us, but the edge where it vanishes becomes a message all its own. And yet there is something even stranger. The phenomenon of Hawking radiation suggests that black holes may not be fully silent. That light, or at least particles of light, might escape very slowly through quantum effects at the edge. This light is faint, almost impossible to detect, but it hints that even the most final places might still whisper, that even when light seems forgotten, it is never fully lost. In the tiniest labs, scientists are now bending light in new ways. They slow it down. They trap it inside crystals. They twist it into spirals. They use it to store information, to compute, to probe the smallest distances. Quantum optics has become a field of endless promise. And yet, even as we manipulate light with more precision, we do not fully know what it is. We learn more, but it remains elusive. It still slips between categories. It still reminds us that understanding is not possession, that knowing is not capturing, that beauty does not need definition to be true. So what then are we to do with this mystery? Perhaps only this: to honor it, to sit with it, to let it be what it is. Light is not waiting to be solved, it is waiting to be witnessed, and in that witnessing something gentle happens. We begin to notice it more. The way it paints the edge of a petal, the way it slides across wood, the way it lingers in clouds before rain. And maybe in those small moments we remember something about ourselves, that we too forget our shape, that we too move differently when watched, that we too are more than one thing. The light that touches you today may have traveled for millions of years. It may have passed through gas, through galaxies, through moments of silence older than memory. It may have brushed the edge of a planet that no longer exists. And now it rests on your skin. It belongs to you just for a moment. You don't need to understand it, just feel it. Let it remind you of the journeys that never leave a map, of the softness in all that moves, of the truth that even things without form can carry warmth and meaning and life. Let this final part of the journey unfold slowly like the fading light of evening. No sudden turns, no sharp corners, just the quiet recognition that something small and weightless has traveled with us all along. Light in all its gentleness does not ask to be understood. It arrives anyway without sound or permission. It touches stone and skin alike. It carries no memory of mass, and yet it defines the world's edges. It paints shadow and shape. It fills space without occupying it. And when it forgets its shape, when it is asked to become either a particle or a wave, it does so not out of confusion, but out of a deep, unspoken freedom. There is something profoundly human in this, something tender in the way light adapts to how it is seen. We, too, carry layers that respond to the gaze of others. We become quiet in silence, bright in love, sharp in fear. We remember ourselves differently depending on who is watching. We are wave and particle, dream and decision. Light teaches us not through words but through behavior. Its dual nature, its timeless journey, its patience in darkness, all of it speaks without speaking. It reminds us that we can be more than one thing. That contradiction is not brokenness, but depth. The world is filled with metaphors of light, and perhaps it's because light never pushes. It simply arrives. It does not shatter the dark, it replaces it, not with noise but with presence. In the mornings when the sun rises across frost-laced fields, it does not hurry. It stretches slowly and the earth responds. The dew lifts. The birds stir. The quiet yields. And in this yielding, everything becomes visible. Yet even this beauty is not the full story. Because beneath what we see lies what we do not. The light's true journey is invisible. Its forgetting of form, its surrender to measurement, its agreement to behave, just for a moment. Consider again the mystery of quantum measurement. The idea that until light is observed, it does not decide how to behave. It remains in a cloud of possibilities, a superposition of what it might be. But once it is watched, once it is touched by awareness, it selects a path. It collapses into something knowable. And so the question becomes not just what light is, but who we are in relation to it. If our act of seeing collapses its wave, then we are part of its unfolding. We do not stand outside the universe looking in. We are woven into the equation. We are participants in the becoming. This is not philosophy dressed as physics. This is science, soft at the edges, where truth and meaning share the same breath. The mathematics of light, its speed, its energy, its wavelength, is precise, but the interpretation is open. Are photons real before they are measured? Is a wave function a description of reality or just of our knowledge? These questions hover in laboratories and linger in dreams. And the deeper we go, the more the universe seems to answer with silence. Not because it has nothing to say, but because it wants us to feel it instead. In this silence, light continues. It curls through the vacuum, it bounces off ice, it glints in the eye of a child, it burns in the core of stars and flickers in the hum of a firefly, and though it travels across space, it does not experience time. From the photon's point of view, if it had one, the moment it is created and the moment it is absorbed happen simultaneously. There is no waiting, no journey, only presence, only now. This is perhaps its most delicate gift, to remind us that time, too, is not what it seems, that what we call past and future may be folded more gently than we know. Some physicists suggest that all of time exists at once, that our experience of its flow is a matter of perception, and light in its timelessness seems to whisper that this might be true. If so, then every moment you've ever lived still glows faintly in some hidden layer of the universe. The first time you saw a sunrise, the last time someone held your hand, all of it still flickering in the folds of space-time, still touched by photons, still remembered in light. Even memory itself may be shaped by light. The brain sees not by direct touch but through photons streaming into the eyes. Those signals are turned into images, into feelings, into story. But what you see is not the world as it is the light bouncing off it. Everything you have ever known has come to you through these particles, forgetting their shape to become what you need. They are the translators of reality, the bridge between the invisible and the known. And they have done this without rest, without thanks, since long before you could name them. You might wonder, too, about light's absence, about darkness, but darkness is not a thing. It is a condition, a space where light has not arrived. And even then, light is never far. It may be just beyond the hill, just behind the clouds, just waiting to be let in. And so we learn that absence is not always loss. It can be anticipation, the readiness for something to appear, the room before the candle, the silence before the spark. In our modern world, light surrounds us in new ways. In screens, in signals, in beams that scan the surface of planets. We bend it with mirrors, bounce it through fiber, trap it in circuits. We encode information into it, send it across oceans in pulses. And yet its heart has not changed. It still forgets itself when we do not watch. It still chooses a shape only when asked. It still moves with the grace of uncertainty. In all our precision, we have not caged it. We have only asked new questions, and each time it answers gently. Maybe that is the lesson we are meant to carry, that we do not need to force clarity, that it's okay not to know everything, that just as light exists between wave and particle, we exist between certainty and wonder, between what we believe we are and what we might yet become. There is space there, beautiful, unfolding space, space to change, to forgive, to rest. So now, as this story softens toward its end, let yourself feel the light that lives around you. Not the harshness of bulbs or the brightness of midday, but the quiet light. The one that filters through curtains. The one that dances on water. The one that arrives through memory. Feel it not as a tool, but as a presence. It does not need a shape. It only needs a moment to touch. And in that touch, everything becomes visible again. Let your thoughts grow still. Let your breath slow. Somewhere photons are moving across galaxies. Somewhere stars are dying and being born, and the light they give off may one day find you. May wrap around your shoulder, may settle into your eye, may pause for a moment on your path before continuing on. And you too are a traveler. You too carry light. You too forget your shape. And maybe that is the most beautiful part of all. In the quietest corners of the universe, where sound cannot travel and time feels like a whisper, something astonishing happens. Electrons speak, not with voices, not with sound waves, not in any language we know, but with motion, with presence, with tiny, silent choices. They are the smallest messengers, spinning around atoms, appearing and vanishing, humming gently with energy. You cannot see them, but they are always near. Inside the air you breathe. Inside the cells of your body. Inside the stars that shimmer in the black sea of night. Their world is small beyond imagining, but it is full, full of secrets, full of signals, full of softly shared information. And if you could listen in, if you could somehow slip into their rhythm, you might find that everything, even silence, carries meaning. Electrons do not sit still. They cannot. It is not in their nature. Even when they are bound to atoms, they move with a kind of restless grace, dancing in orbits, shifting energy, drifting between shells of probability. In school, we're shown pictures of atoms, tiny suns with planets around them, but the truth is softer. The orbits are not tracks, not loops etched in space. They are clouds. They are possibilities. Each electron is like a thought not yet spoken, a presence more than a place. It hovers, it flickers, it spreads like mist around the nucleus, and its location is never exact. You can say where it might be, but never where it is. And yet somehow electrons interact. They feel each other, they adjust. They trade energy without touching. They affect the paths of their neighbors in ways so gentle, so precise, that even physicists sometimes call it a conversation. Through shared fields and subtle forces they pass messages, not in lines and letters, but in waves and spins. In the way they align, in the way they repel, in the way they fold and unfold around each other. One changes and another responds. It is not chance. It is communication at the edge of meaning. In the simplest atoms, like hydrogen with its lone electron, the conversation is soft and solo. The electron circles, hums, rests, but add more electrons, add more protons, and the conversation grows richer. Electrons avoid each other, yet remain connected. They form shapes that cradle the structure of molecules, that bind atoms into life. The patterns of their arrangements give us chemistry, give us breath, give us water and wind. Their tiny negotiations, their refusal to overlap, give matter its shape. The way they say, You go there and I'll be here. The way they find harmony without contact. These silent exchanges are governed by quantum rules, strange and beautiful principles that bend the idea of logic into something softer. Like the Pauli exclusion principle, which says that no two electrons can share the same state. Each must have its own path, its own space, its own unique role in the symphony. And so they arrange themselves, not chaotically, but with quiet care. This is how atoms build, how matter forms, how the universe holds together, not with loud explosions, but with delicate, invisible negotiations. Sometimes electrons don't just move between orbits, they jump. In an instant with no in-between, they absorb or release a packet of energy, a quantum. And when they do, they shift to a new state, a new layer, a new way of being. This leap is not gradual, it is sudden, precise, like a heartbeat, like a breath. And when they fall back down, they release light, a photon born from the change, from the letting go. It is one of the universe's oldest songs, an electron shifting and shining. It happens in stars. It happens in your eyes. It happens in the flicker of fireflies and the glow of distant galaxies. But there's more. Sometimes two electrons become entangled. Their states become linked in a way that transcends space. One spins up and the other spins down. Measure one and you know the other instantly, even if it is across the room or across the galaxy. This is not just poetic, it is real. It is measurable. It is part of the strange dance of quantum mechanics, and it means that electrons do not exist alone. They carry relationships. They carry memory. They carry a quiet kind of awareness. Even when electrons scatter, bounce off each other, fly apart, they retain a trace of their meeting, a trace that shapes their path. And in those moments of interaction, those gentle collisions, they leave fingerprints on the field around them. They shape reality not by shouting but by nudging, by adjusting the probabilities of where they and others might be. This is how they speak, through influence, through presence, through the way they refuse to be where another is and the way they allow space for all things to exist. And this quiet speech builds everything. The structure of molecules, the shape of DNA, the function of nerves. Electrons carry charge, and that charge creates fields, and those fields create currents, and those currents create life. The brain, too, hums with electrical patterns, millions of electrons moving through neurons, forming thoughts, memories, sensations. When you remember someone's voice or feel a song echo in your chest, it is electrons moving in rhythm. It is their soft, collective signal, shaping the map of your mind. They move not in lines but in clouds, not with weight but with influence, and still they never rest. The uncertainty principle tells us this. The more we know of an electron's place, the less we know of its speed. The more we know of its motion, the less we know of where it is. It's not a limitation, it's a feature, a softness built into the nature of being. Electrons are not lost. They are free. They are always becoming, always in conversation with space, with time, with each other. Now picture this. Inside every atom of your body, electrons are moving, not randomly but purposefully, responding to energy, responding to light, communicating with the atoms next to them, shaping the tissues of your skin, the rhythm of your breath, the warmth in your hands. You are a structure held together by invisible exchange, by tiny decisions, by the refusal to occupy the same space. You are the result of shared silence, of coordinated motion, of unspoken understanding. Electrons do not grow tired. They do not age. They exist as long as the universe allows. Some were formed in the first seconds after the Big Bang. Others emerged from stars long gone. And yet they continue, moving through matter, through space, through life. An electron in your eye might once have danced inside a comet. An electron in your heartbeat might have spun in the dust of an ancient star. They remember in a way we do not. They carry stories, not in words but in motion. And so when you rest, when your thoughts grow quiet, when the world seems still, remember that inside you a conversation continues. A song without voice, without pause. Electrons dancing in their shells, shifting softly from one energy to the next, listening for what comes next. It is not noise. It is not chaos. It is meaning unfolding in silence. The language of everything, spoken by things too small to see and too vital to ever forget. Let's drift deeper into the hidden world where electrons continue their secret conversations, not with volume but with quiet certainty. Their language is motion, yes, but also memory, direction, possibility. They do not make choices with thought but with laws older than time, laws etched into the bones of the universe. And even though they do not speak like we do, they understand something we're only beginning to sense. That relationship shapes reality. That presence alters paths. That even in the absence of touch, connection still changes everything. Each electron exists inside a field, and this field is not empty. It is alive with energy, with invisible lines stretching across space. When two particles approach, their fields begin to sense each other. They push, they pull, they adjust their movement as if in conversation. It is not negotiation in the human sense, but something older, something more precise. When an electron enters a new environment, like a wire, a crystal, a living cell, it listens to the fields already there. It listens by moving, by slowing or speeding up, by jumping levels or changing spin. Every action is a response, every change a sentence. This is not poetry, it is how the world holds together. Consider electricity, the flow of electrons along a path. We take it for granted. Lights turning on, machines humming to life, warmth spilling from wires. But within every circuit, a story is unfolding. Each electron is pushed gently forward, not by brute force, but by potential, by the difference in charge that urges it onward. It's like a hill and a valley. The electron doesn't need to understand gravity to roll downhill. It simply responds, and this response becomes current. This current becomes energy, and that energy becomes everything we touch. Every lamp, every screen, every heartbeat recorded on a monitor, all born from the quiet motion of electrons following invisible guidance. And yet there's more than flow. Electrons don't just move, they also orbit, bond, repel. They shape molecules not with weight but with arrangement. Picture a water molecule, two hydrogen atoms, one oxygen. What holds them together is not glue but the shared embrace of electrons. They are not owned, they are shared, drifting between atoms like soft hands linking strangers. This is called a covalent bond, and it is delicate, strong, sacred. It is the reason water exists, the reason life exists. Electrons agreeing for just long enough to be part of more than themselves. In metals, electrons behave differently. They do not stay tied to individual atoms. They become free, delocalized. They move in a sea, a swarm, a shimmering cloud of possibility. This freedom is what gives metal its shine, its ability to carry current, its smooth response to heat. And yet, even in this freedom, there is order. Electrons still avoid overlapping. They still respond to fields. They still speak in their own way, forming structures and conductance with precision and grace. What seems like chaos is actually choreography. Electrons are also sensitive to the smallest changes in their world. A nearby particle, a shift in energy, a photon passing close, these can change everything. And they respond instantly, not with panic but with purpose. They change spin, change energy levels, shift position. And in that change, a message is carried. This sensitivity is what makes sensors work. It's what lets your phone recognize touch. It's what lets your eyes receive light. Your retina is filled with molecules shaped to respond to photons. When light enters, it nudges an electron. That electron jumps. That jump begins a cascade of signals. And in seconds, your brain says, light, shape, color, meaning, all from one small electron responding to a touch of light. And yes, this response happens in plants too. Chlorophyll molecules in leaves absorb sunlight. Photons strike electrons. Electrons rise in energy, then fall, releasing power. That power is used to split water, to build sugars, to store the sun's breath inside green life. Every leaf is filled with these conversations of light and energy, of electrons being gently stirred into motion and carrying the message forward. And when you eat fruit, when you breathe out, when you grow, those messages continue. Your body carries the result of those exchanges. You are, in a quiet way, made of the sun's words. At the edge of technology, we now shape materials so carefully that electrons must move in single lines. In quantum dots, in semiconductors, in superconductors chilled close to absolute zero, we find electrons behaving like waves trapped in narrow lanes. We find them tunneling through barriers as if forgetting that walls exist. We find them forming patterns that defy classical logic. And yet the math predicts it all. The equations say, yes, this is how they behave. Not randomly, but with rules. Not with chaos, but with complexity. In quantum computing, we now use electrons not just as carriers of charge, but as holders of state. Their spin, their presence, their superposition becomes data, becomes qubits. These qubits don't just store ones or zeros, they store maybes. They hold possibilities. They allow for calculations that stretch beyond the limits of traditional machines. And again, it is the electrons who carry this burden, who whisper these choices, who shimmer in gates and entangle across circuits. It is their conversation, silent, swift, that forms the next frontier of thought. And still in the body they continue. The proteins that fold into shape, the enzymes that cut and repair, the impulses that race along nerves, each depends on electron motion, on shared fields, on subtle exchanges. When you feel a touch, when you speak a word, when you close your eyes and remember something soft, it is electrons at work, not alone but together, responding, moving, knowing in the way only particles can know. And yet they remain invisible. No one has ever seen an electron directly. We see traces, trails, effects. We see the curve they make in magnetic fields, the jump they cause in detectors, the shadow they cast on a screen. But the electron itself remains undefined, unheld, like a thought, like a moment of intuition, like a truth that arrives without proof. It is real, but not in the way we expect. It is there, but only when we look. And so we begin to understand something quietly profound, that the universe is not built from hard blocks but from soft signals, that solidity is an illusion, that beneath the wood, the stone, the skin, there is motion, there is intention, there is exchange. Every part of you is shaped by electrons that never stop moving, that never stop responding, that never stop speaking in their own language. And if that is true, if electrons are always in dialogue, then perhaps we are too. Perhaps all connection begins with this motion. Perhaps every relationship, every spark of recognition, every kindness exchanged begins as a shift in potential, as one presence shaping another, not loudly but gently. Like electrons, we live in fields that overlap. We are drawn, we are repelled, we align, we avoid. And in all of this, we are speaking, even in silence. So lie still now. Let the conversation continue, not in words but in wonder. The electrons are still moving, still dancing, still remembering how to form the world. Now we move gently toward the end of this quiet unfolding, into the hush where the smallest voices still speak, where the electrons hum softly in their shells and around their paths. They have never stopped. Even as you breathe, even as the world around you slows to rest, they continue their motion, not frantic, not chaotic, but purposeful. Every movement an answer, every shift a response, every orbit a line in a language that has shaped the entire known world. This is the language of energy, of presence, of invisible alignment. And though it cannot be heard in any ordinary way, it is felt in the pulse of every cell, in the stillness of matter, in the warmth of thought. At the edge of memory, the electrons continue to move. They slide across synapses in your brain, leaping from one neuron to another with perfect timing, with graceful arcs, with unmeasurable speed. They are the bridge between emotion and awareness. When you feel the joy of remembering a loved one's smile or the gentle ache of a fatting song, it is not abstract. It is electrical. It is quantum. It is electrons traveling a chosen path because a part of you asked them to. They do not understand language, but they answer intention. They do not know what thought is, and yet they create it. And their memory is long, not like ours, not full of names and places, but full of patterns, full of echoes. Some electrons in your body have been part of oceans and clouds. Some were born in the hearts of stars that died long before Earth ever cooled. They have traveled across time, carried inside water, air, food, fire, passed from life to life without ever stopping. They carry a deep record of the universe's unfolding, a map of connection that reaches beyond what we see. When you touch a stone, some of its electrons may once have lived inside a tree. When you hold a child's hand, Some of your electrons may have spun in a mountain's bones. Yet despite all this movement, all this passage from form to form, electrons do not change. They have no parts. They are not made of anything smaller. They are indivisible. In physics, they are considered fundamental among the smallest building blocks of reality. Not because they are insignificant, but because they are essential. They are the foundation of what matter becomes. And though they are invisible, their presence shapes everything. Without them, there is no chemistry, no biology, no breath, no spark, no being. And perhaps this is what makes them so quietly powerful, their ability to hold the world together without ever needing to be seen. They do not ask for recognition. They do not leave a signature. But when they move, things change. When they jump, light appears. When they shift, bonds break or form. And when they align, even briefly, they create magnetism, a force strong enough to move iron, to guide birds, to shape galaxies. Electrons align in metal and form magnetic fields. Those fields stretch across space. They shape compasses. They guide ships. They write silent messages across the solar wind. And still, electrons remain soft at the edges. When they pass through slits or enter strange materials, they behave like waves. They spread. They interfere. They shimmer in and out of form. They do not insist on being only one thing. They are open. They are uncertain. They are willing to forget the sharpness of boundaries, and in this way they remind us, we too do not need to be just one thing. We can occupy more than one identity, more than one possibility, more than one path. Like electrons, we may belong to multiple stories at once and still be whole. Even in the realm of light, electrons hold the key. When they change states, they release photons, and when they absorb light, they change again. This constant exchange between matter and light, between stillness and motion, is what gives stars their fire and skin its warmth. It is what lets leaves open at dawn and clouds form above quiet fields. It is what allows the eye to see and the heart to feel. Electrons are the messengers, the in-between, the link between the physical and the radiant. They exist at the threshold, and they cross it again and again. In quantum mechanics, some believe that observation itself alters the behavior of electrons, that the act of measuring, of paying attention, causes them to choose a state. It's as though the universe responds to curiosity, as though particles long to be witnessed. And while there is debate about what this truly means, the metaphor is gentle, that attention matters, that seeing something changes it, that when we watch closely, not with judgment but with care, we help shape what becomes real. Perhaps that is the secret conversation, not just between electrons but between the universe and everything within it. A steady unfolding that responds to attention, a dance of possibility that collapses into presence, a story that only writes itself when someone listens. Electrons are part of this story, and so are we, made of motion, made of choice, made of delicate connection. As the story of electrons draws to a close, remember that it does not really end. Their conversations go on, unfolding in every leaf, every gust of wind, every quiet breath in the dark. They continue inside you now as you rest, as you dream, as your cells carry out their endless work. You are never without them. You are made of their movement, cradled in their patterns. They do not speak, but they understand presence. They do not think, but they follow purpose. So let yourself be still now, not empty but full, full of soft exchanges, full of hidden rhythms. The electrons are still listening, still shaping, still holding the world together, one silent conversation at a time. Let that comfort you. Let that surround you. Let the hush of the smallest things remind you that nothing is ever truly alone. Time has always seemed like a river, moving forward, steady, carrying everything with it. Days follow nights, seasons return, we grow older, and the clock's hands turn in quiet circles. It feels constant, invisible but firm, shaping every breath, every step. But beneath the smooth surface of hours and calendars, time behaves differently. Especially deep within the atoms, where particles spin and flicker and vanish, time becomes less of a river and more of a loop, a whisper that bends, a rhythm that forgets to be straight. And the further we drift into the quantum world, the more time begins to shimmer, softening, twisting, even pausing for breath. Imagine standing still, absolutely still. Around you everything seems frozen, But inside your body, deep inside your atoms, particles are dancing, electrons are jumping, fields are vibrating, and with each of those movements time ticks, but not in straight lines. It pulses, it folds, it stretches. On these smallest scales, time doesn't flow the way we feel it. It flickers, it loops, it sometimes loses its direction entirely. Scientists exploring the quantum realm have discovered that time here is less a rule and more a suggestion, less a path and more a fabric, with folds and curves and unexpected seams. This strange softness of time shows up most clearly when particles become entangled. Two particles that are connected, no matter how far apart they drift, can influence each other instantly, not just across space, but across time. It challenges our oldest assumptions. If one particle changes, the other reflects that change in the very same moment, even if light itself couldn't travel fast enough to deliver the message. And so we ask, did the second particle know what would happen before it did? Did the future ripple into the past? Did time, just for a moment, run backwards? It is not just poetic musing. It is experiment. It is data. In certain quantum setups, especially those involving delayed choice experiments, scientists have shown that decisions made in the present can seem to affect events that already happened. A photon passing through a slit behaves differently depending on whether or not we measure it after the fact, as if reality itself is not fixed until we look, as if the present reaches gently backward, touching the past and asking it to become real. It does not rewrite history, but it suggests that history is more fluid than we thought. We think of time as a straight road, but the quantum world whispers something else. That time might be woven like a tapestry, threads doubling back, touching, folding over each other. Not chaos, but a deeper kind of order, a circularity, a memory stitched into matter itself. Even in radioactive decay, where particles slowly fall apart releasing energy, there is a rhythm, a half-life, a countdown that is not absolute but probabilistic, a sense that time's hand is soft, not strict. It does not force, it waits. Even temperature, the warmth you feel when sunlight touches your face, is related to time. Not directly, but through the motion of particles. The faster they move, the more energy they carry, the hotter the substance becomes. And in the quiet spaces where atoms are cooled to near absolute zero, where all motion nearly stops, something remarkable happens. Time seems to slow down too. The particles lose urgency. Their jitter softens. They become more wave than particle, more potential than place. As though cooling, matter draws it closer to timelessness. In the laboratory, scientists create these cold places with lasers and magnetic traps, cradling atoms in stillness, watching them with perfect care. And there in the cold, time reveals more of its gentle loop. Particles form Bose-Einstein condensates, overlapping into single states, behaving like one great wave. And waves do not know time the way marbles do. They ripple forward and back, rise and fall, repeating their forms. They suggest that time, too, may be rhythm instead of line. That it may echo more than it marches. In some corners of theoretical physics, time is not even a fundamental ingredient. Some equations describing the quantum universe work just as well without it. They do not require a ticking clock. They suggest a realm where everything simply is, where all moments coexist, like pages of a book already written. We read one line at a time, but the whole story lies before us. The future does not wait ahead, it waits beside. And the past does not vanish, it simply folds behind our attention. This is not a conclusion, it is a possibility, a soft suggestion, an invitation to wonder. And yet time is not just an abstraction, it is something we feel. We sense it in the growth of trees, in the fading of light, in the spaces between footsteps. And at the smallest scales, time leaves traces in particles too. Muons, tiny cousins of the electron, decay in microseconds, but when they move near the speed of light, they live longer. Their internal clock slows. This is not an illusion. It is measurable. It is time dilation, predicted by Einstein and confirmed in particle accelerators. Speed and gravity bend time, and so even motion itself becomes a way of altering time's flow. If you stood near a black hole, where gravity curves space so tightly that even light cannot escape, time for you would slow, drastically. Minutes could pass for you while years fly by elsewhere. This isn't science fiction, it's part of general relativity, and it has been measured near Earth with satellite clocks. Time is not the same everywhere. It moves at different rates depending on speed and mass. The universe does not share one single rhythm. It plays many songs at once. And in the quantum world, this layered rhythm becomes even stranger. Particles exist in superpositions, many states at once, until something causes them to collapse into one. When does that happen? Is there a moment, a tick, a threshold? We don't know. Time, in these cases, feels more like a question than an answer. Something may exist in every possible form until time is asked to choose. And then, only then, does it reveal what always was. Even our sense of now may not be absolute. The present, that razor-thin edge we think of as real, is surprisingly hard to define in physics. Events that seem simultaneous to one person may not be to another, depending on how they move. There is no universal now. Instead, there are overlapping sheets of experience, each valid, each flowing differently. It's as if time's surface is not flat but softly wrinkled, like the folds of a calm sea touched by a breeze. And yet through all of this mystery, time remains deeply familiar. It rocks us to sleep, marks our celebrations, reminds us of what we've lost and loved. It gives shape to longing. It gives space for healing. And perhaps the softness we see at the quantum level is not an error but a mirror, a reflection of how memory works, of how dreams stretch seconds into hours, of how grief slows moments down and joy makes them race. We do not experience time as a metronome. We experience it as music. So as we sit at the edge of this idea, let time become something you feel rather than measure. Let it be a mist that drifts around your thoughts, not a ladder to climb. Let it be a spiral, not a straight line. The particles beneath your skin do not fear time. They do not rush. They do not regret. They move in patterns written by fields and probabilities, and they carry you forward, sometimes gently, sometimes not, but always in rhythm. And tonight, as you lie still, as the world quiets around you, know that time is still folding beneath you. Not running out, not slipping away, but looping, listening, carrying you through the softest physics. Through the hush where seconds become stories and particles remember how to turn without ever leaving. Let us move further into the folds of time, past the ticking of clocks and into the place where moments stretch and blend, where seconds no longer feel like tiny boxes but like waves on a still lake, rising and falling, returning again in softer echoes. Time beneath the atom does not march. It spirals. It ripples. It forgets to be straight. And this forgetfulness is not a flaw. It is a deeper kind of remembering, a memory held in the motion of particles, in the curves of space, in the quiet tension between cause and effect. One of the strangest ideas in physics is that the universe may not have a single direction for time. In our world, we know the arrow of time, forward, always forward. Milk spills but does not unspill. Glass shatters but does not rebuild. We age. We remember the past and imagine the future. But in the equations that describe fundamental particles, time has no preference. The math works the same if you run it forward or backward. The arrow of time, it seems, is not carved into the universe, but written into entropy, the tendency for systems to move from order to disorder. It's not time itself that moves forward, but the story of energy spreading, cooling, softening. And so the particles within us, electrons, quarks, photons, do not carry clocks. They do not know which way is forward. They simply follow the rules of interaction. They collide, decay, entangle, drift. And yet from this a direction emerges. Because of entropy, we remember yesterday and not tomorrow. Because of entropy, heat flows from hot to cold and not the other way around. But entropy is not a master. It is a pattern. And like all patterns, it may fold, pause, or blur. In black holes, for instance, the rules shift. The edges of these collapsed stars, event horizons, hold all the information that falls in. And as Stephen Hawking showed us, they also radiate ever so slowly, suggesting that nothing is ever truly lost to time. Even the deepest forgetting contains some memory. In quantum experiments, time is not always needed to explain what happens. The correlations between particles seem to live outside of sequence. When one particle is measured, its entangled partner reflects the result instantly. The measurement happens now, but its effect reaches across not just distance, but time. There are theories that suggest the entangled particles are not responding to each other across space, but sharing information from a common source, a deeper fabric where time is less like a line and more like a surface, layered, shifting, curved. And if we imagine time as a surface, then it may have hills and valleys. It may stretch and thin like fabric under tension. In regions of high gravity, time slows, not just for the observer but for the events themselves. This is not a metaphor. It is a truth tested again and again, by satellites in orbit, by particles accelerated to near light speed, by clocks placed on mountain peaks. The closer you are to a massive object, the slower your time flows. A clock at sea level ticks just a little slower than one at high altitude. You wouldn't feel the difference, but the universe does. Time bends, time listens. And this bending becomes even more poetic when you realize that gravity itself might not be a force, but a curve. General relativity tells us that massive objects bend the fabric of spacetime, and particles simply follow those curves. Time is not an external stage. It is part of the set. It is woven into the same cloth as space, and particles, those tiniest dancers, do not resist the bend. They glide along it, gracefully, choosing paths that seem natural because the universe has already shaped them. But what does it mean for time to bend inside your own body? Within your atoms, gravity is weak, but motion is constant. Particles vibrate, jump, drift in and out of clouds of probability. Each movement, each interaction marks a tick in the internal rhythm of the body. And yet, not all rhythms are the same. Some cells age faster than others. Some tissues regenerate with greater speed. Even at the molecular level, there is variation. And this variation suggests that time is not just one thing moving at one speed. It is layered, it is personal, it is soft. And in some particles, like neutrinos, time seems almost irrelevant. Neutrinos pass through matter as though it isn't there. They rarely interact. They travel from the sun to the earth in seconds, billions of them pouring through your body every moment unnoticed. And in their silence, they seem timeless. They carry the past inside them but do not stop to touch it. They are part of the conversation, but only as witnesses, not as participants. And so, in the presence of such particles, we glimpse a kind of stillness. A stillness not of absence, but of clarity. A reminder that time is not the same for every kind of being. Even light, for all its speed, exists outside our common understanding of time. For a photon, there is no journey. Created and absorbed, beginning and end happen in the same breath. No time passes in its own frame. This strange property invites us to reconsider what we think we know about now. For us, a moment has a beginning, a middle, and end. But for light, a moment is all at once, a whole, a singular presence. And perhaps within that presence lies a kind of truth we often forget, that the now is wide, that the present is not a single point but a field, that our lives do not unfold like a string of beads one after another but like waves overlapping, repeating, dissolving. Think of music. A note is not just a point in time. It is a vibration, a resonance. It takes space to be heard. It lives in its own loop. And time, too, may be more like that. A song than a tick, a flow than a chain. At the cellular level, the circadian rhythm tells time without clocks. Proteins rise and fall in their concentrations, responding to light, temperature, and chemical signals. These cycles continue even in isolation, deep underground or far from the sun. The body remembers. The molecules remember, not by watching a second-hand move, but by unfolding according to a rhythm that predates machines, a rhythm that listens to something older than minutes. And perhaps that is the loop, the rhythm that dances quietly beneath atoms, a gentle oscillation between energy and rest, between presence and becoming. It is not random, it is not rigid. It is patterned, and it repeats with variations, like breathing, like the phases of the moon, like the pulse of stars. And within that loop, we find a different kind of time, not the time that orders meetings and calendars, but the time that grows forests and wears down stone. The time that shapes mountains with wind, that teaches water to flow, that lets life evolve without hurrying. So let your breath follow this rhythm. Let your thoughts rest in it. You are not running out of time, you are wrapped in it. You are shaped by its softness. Time is not a thief. It is a weaver, and every second that passes is not lost but woven into the story of motion, of change, of being. There are no hard edges here, only loops turning slowly in the dark, carrying you gently toward whatever comes next. Let us linger now in the final turn of this gentle loop, where time slows to a hush and the deepest parts of nature reveal their quiet rhythm. The hands of the clock have no meaning here. Seconds do not fall away like petals. Instead, time becomes something you rest within, a field of soft motion, a breeze that carries all things forward without hurry. The universe, at its smallest and most silent, does not count time the way we do. It does not divide it, track it, chase it. It simply allows it to be. It allows moments to shimmer and settle, to rise and return, to form meaning not through measurement but through motion. At this scale where particles drift through probability, time folds in on itself like silk. It does not fear repetition, it welcomes it. It understands that the same pattern can return with a new whisper each time. And maybe that is what life is too, a returning, a remembering, a rhythm that never ends, only changes. The stars burn and cool. The trees bloom and fade. Hearts beat. Thoughts return. Even dreams have their own quiet tempo, and beneath all of it, time is listening, not with judgment, not with boundaries, but with infinite softness. Even in human lives, which feel so short compared to the age of mountains or the flight of galaxies, time is never only linear. We carry it in circles. We live in loops. Memory bends the past into the present. Hope stretches the present toward the future. And in between, our bodies follow countless rhythms: heartbeat, breath, sleep, hunger, the slow rebuilding of cells, the gentle erosion of memory, the sudden return of a feeling we thought long gone. These rhythms do not obey clocks. They obey something deeper, an internal tide, a shared language with the stars. In the quantum world, particles remember without remembering. They respond not just to the conditions of now, but to the shape of all possibilities around them. A particle may move in a path that reflects not just where it came from, but where it might go. In this way, the future becomes a quiet influence, folding backward into the present. The particle does not plan, but it behaves as though time is a conversation, not a command, a dance, not a deadline. And through this dance, the world builds itself again and again, not with certainty, but with trust. In the equations of quantum physics, time often appears as a parameter, just a tool to describe evolution, not a fundamental entity in itself. Some physicists wonder if time is emergent, not basic, that it arises only when systems grow complex enough to need it. In a pure quantum state, no observers, no measurement, perhaps time doesn't exist at all. Perhaps it blooms only when there is change, only when something becomes different. And if that's true, then time is not a background. It is an effect, a byproduct of the universe becoming aware of itself. And so we return to awareness, not as a mystical idea, but as something deeply physical. When you notice the world, when you observe, you become part of the unfolding. Measurement collapses wave functions. Observation chooses outcomes. Consciousness does not just witness time, it helps write it. Your attention carves a path through the mist of possibility, and that path becomes memory, becomes story, becomes the thread you follow through your days. You are not separate from time's shaping. You are one of its instruments. Even the clocks we build, those careful machines of gears and pulses, depend on atomic time, on electrons shifting between energy states, on tiny transitions that repeat with stunning precision. The most accurate clocks today use lasers to measure these shifts in atoms like cesium or ytterbium. These atoms remember their rhythm better than any heart, more faithfully than any pendulum. And still, they are just particles moving in loops. Still, they are governed by the same soft quantum rules. We trust them to mark our hours, but they too are part of the fabric we are trying to measure. And time, for all its gentleness, carries great power. It does not need to hurry, it does not need to announce itself. Given long enough, it wears down mountains. It folds light, it spreads stars. It cools the fire of suns and lifts the ocean toward the sky. Time is not loud, It is persistent. It is present in every grain of sand that once was a cliff, in every wrinkle that tells a story of laughter or sorrow, in every tree ring holding years of rain and drought. It is not a thief. It is a storyteller, and it leaves its mark not through destruction but through detail. In the body, time is not always welcome. We fear its touch, fear the signs it leaves. But maybe if we listen the way particles do, we would hear something else, a reassurance, a reminder that time does not erase, it transforms. Every cell that changes, every hair that grays, every shift in breath is part of a wider rhythm, a movement not away from youth but toward something else, a different kind of knowing, a different kind of peace. And maybe peace is what the quantum world offers us most of all. Not answers, not certainties, but a soft permission to not always understand, to not always measure, to rest within the mystery, when particles don't demand direction, when time loops instead of climbs, when the now stretches wide enough to include both past and future. That is the invitation. To breathe, to notice, to let go of the pressure to hold on. The moments are not slipping through your fingers. They are unfolding all around you, gently, endlessly. The universe in all its vastness does not rush. Galaxies drift, stars pulse. Light travels for millions of years just to land softly on your skin. And in that one photon carried across the folds of spacetime, you receive not just warmth but a message. That you are part of the rhythm, that you are not separate, that you are not late. You are exactly where time needs you to be. And so let the clock fall silent now. Let the numbers fade. Feel instead the loop of your breath, the curve of memory rising, the small, perfect motion of electrons dancing beneath your skin. They do not count time, they create it. And you, in your stillness, in your dreaming, are part of that creation. Time is not a straight road disappearing behind you. It is a circle that holds you, a pattern that returns, a loop beneath the atom folding gently as you sleep. Let it hold you now. Let it rock you slowly through the hush between heartbeats. The world will turn and time will carry you not away, but home. There is a place the eye cannot see and the hand cannot touch, a space between what is real and what is only possible. It is not a place with borders. It has no edges, no doorway, no map. It is not made of stone or air, but of conditions, of chances, of maybes that flicker in and out of becoming. Physicists call this the realm of probability, the fabric beneath certainty. It is where the rules of classical thought dissolve, and the universe reveals a gentler, stranger truth, that everything begins in shadow, not yet chosen, not yet collapsed. And in these shadows, possibility breathes, not as a dream but as a structure, not as fiction but as foundation. At the quantum level, nothing is fixed until it is observed. A particle's position, its speed, its spin, they are not definite until something nudges them into place. Before that, they are probabilities spread like mist, described not with location but with likelihood. It is not that the particle is hiding. It's that it exists in many versions of itself, all layered on top of one another, waiting for the world to ask a question. Only then does it respond. Only then does one version become true, and all others fade quietly, like morning dew vanishing beneath sunlight. This strange behavior was not invented in imagination. It was revealed in experiment after experiment, each more precise than the last. When electrons pass through slits in a barrier, they do not behave like marbles, they interfere. They create wave-like patterns, suggesting they do not travel as single points but as spread-out possibilities. But when we try to catch them in the act, the pattern disappears. The electron chooses a slit. It chooses a path. It behaves like a particle, as though the act of being seen folds the world into clarity, as though the veil is pulled away and shadow becomes shape. This is the collapse of the wave function, a poetic phrase for a quiet shift. In the mathematics of quantum physics, every particle is described by a wave of potential, a delicate humming function that contains all the paths it might take, and when measured, the wave collapses. The many paths become one. The possibilities narrow into presence. The particle appears in one place at one time with one outcome, and yet before that moment it was all of them. It was the ghost of every route it might have followed. It was not undecided, but unrestricted. It is difficult for our minds to live in this place. We are used to solidity. We are used to choices being made, things being clear, objects having weight. But in the quantum world, clarity is the exception, not the rule. Things are not so much hidden as undefined, not so much uncertain as flexible. A particle can be here and not here. It can be still and moving. It can exist and not exist, depending on the frame of reference. And in this strange grammar, the universe speaks in whispers, in shadows, in stories not yet written. These shadows are not empty. They are full of structure, full of meaning. The equations that govern them, Schrödinger's equation among them, are not vague. They are exquisitely precise. They tell us how the wave function evolves, how it changes in time, how it spreads or sharpens. They show us that the shadow is not a lack of knowing, but a different kind of knowing. A mathematical canvas, painted not in facts but in flows. And from that canvas, reality emerges, not like a sculpture chiseled from stone, but like a photograph appearing in a tray of developer. Slowly, softly, moment by moment. And just as light and matter behave this way, so too does energy. Even the vacuum of space, the place we once thought was empty, is filled with potential. Virtual particles appear and disappear in an endless dance, borrowed from the energy of nothing. They are not permanent, but they are real enough to influence the world. They nudge particles. They shape forces. They leave fingerprints on the edges of atoms. And so we learn, even nothing is not truly empty. Even the space between things is thick with shadows, with almosts with what could best. This veil between reality and possibility is not just a mystery, it is a gift. It allows for flexibility, for creativity, for surprise. It allows the universe to try things, to stretch, to explore paths before choosing one. And perhaps we too reflect that gift. In our thoughts, in our dreams, in our choices. Before we act, we imagine, we consider. We hold possibilities in our minds. And only when we commit, when we speak, when we move, does the world shift to match. Perhaps in some quiet way, consciousness mirrors quantum collapse. Attention creates presence. Decision creates direction. Some scientists have asked if consciousness plays a role in this process. Does the mind influence the wave function? Does observation require awareness? The answers are still debated, but even without conclusions, the questions remain beautiful. They remind us that we are not separate from the universe we measure. We are part of it. Our curiosity shapes outcomes. Our wondering creates contours. The shadows between reality and possibility are not far away, they live inside us, in every hesitation, in every moment of silence before we speak. And in the natural world, we see this softness echoed everywhere, in clouds that form from rising mist, in seeds that might grow or not, in the motion of birds deciding when to fly, in the shimmer of leaves before the wind chooses a direction. Nature, too, lives on the edge of certainty. Nature, too, prefers the whisper to the shout. And maybe when we pause to notice that, when we allow uncertainty to be part of beauty, we become better listeners, not just to science, but to life. You might wonder, if particles exist in possibility, what becomes of the paths not taken? Do they vanish? Or do they echo somewhere just out of reach? Some interpretations suggest that all possible outcomes occur, each in its own branching world, that every quantum choice spins a new thread of reality. This is the many worlds interpretation, a bold and poetic vision of infinite stories unfolding side by side. There is no proof, but there is wonder, and perhaps for now that is enough. So rest here in this gentle uncertainty. Let go of the need to know exactly where everything is. Let the world remain a little soft at the edges. Between every breath lies possibility. Between every thought, a path not yet chosen. The shadows are not darkness. They are beginnings. They are invitations. They are the place where being takes a breath before becoming. And in that breath, the universe listens, not for answers, but for attention, not for certainty, but for care. Let's drift further into the soft veil where reality waits to become, where the known rests beside the unknown like waves on a quiet shore. In this space, particles are not fixed things but whispers of intention, shadows of possibility held in delicate suspension. They are not unfinished, they are unwritten, not because they lack truth, but because they contain too much of it. At the heart of this strangeness lies a wave, not a physical one you could ride or feel, but a mathematical wave, a fluid map of everything a particle might be. It is not fuzzy because we are imprecise. It is fuzzy because nature itself prefers to begin with openness. This wave is called the wave function, and it is the most complete description we have of a quantum system. It does not tell us where a particle is, but where it might be found. It does not give a single outcome, but a cloud of probabilities, some large, some small, all existing together in a beautiful suspension. The wave function is not a picture of a place. It is a song of potential, playing quietly beneath reality. It ripples outward, shifting in time, responding to energy, shaped by boundaries and the absence of them. And when something touches it, an eye, a tool, a question, it collapses. It chooses. The song ends and a single note becomes real. But this note does not rise alone. It is shaped by everything that came before. The environment, the entanglements, the past measurements, all of these play a role in the final answer. Quantum mechanics tells us that context matters, that particles are not isolated dancers but members of an orchestra responding to the hum of others around them. Even in the deepest vacuum, particles feel the presence of fields of past decisions, of hidden symmetries. Their outcomes are not random in the way dice are random. They are probabilistic, meaningfully uncertain, curved by everything nearby. Every outcome has a history, even if it's hidden. And this leads us to decoherence, a quiet but profound process. When quantum systems interact with the larger world, their delicate superpositions are lost. The wave function begins to entangle with everything else, spreading its possibilities so thin that interference fades. The system becomes classical or close to it. The sharp quantum strangeness softens into the ordinary. Decoherence does not destroy the wave, it dilutes it. It does not force a decision. It simply lets context take over and the once multiple paths resolve into a clear route chosen by interaction. It is not collapse, it is blending. Even measurement, so often seen as sudden, is a layered thing. When a particle is detected, it is not yanked from mist into marble. Instead, it touches something, a detector, a screen, a neighboring particle, and begins a cascade. Energy is exchanged, states are changed, information is released. Slowly, the quantum system merges with the world and the answer becomes visible. In this way, measurement is not a slap but a handshake, not an intrusion but an invitation. We do not force reality to reveal itself. We participate in its unfolding. And all along, the language of mathematics describes this process with extraordinary elegance. Schrödinger's equation, the heartbeat of quantum theory, shows how the wave function evolves. It is a gentle equation, full of imaginary numbers, describing the smooth, deterministic drift of potential through time. Until measurement happens, the wave evolves predictably. This, too, is part of the paradox, that underneath uncertainty lies precision. That the math knows exactly how the unknown should behave, even when the outcome is not yet known. And this is the strange generosity of quantum mechanics. It gives us tools to calculate wonder. But we must be careful not to confuse calculation with conclusion. We can know how the wave will flow, but not which shore it will land on. And perhaps that is where poetry finds its place, in the soft distance between the evolution of possibility and the arrival of presence. In the quiet moment when one outcome is chosen, not by force but by interaction, not by will but by symmetry breaking, by pattern, by gentle collapse. The universe is not indecisive, it is spacious. It leaves room for choice. This room allows for strange and beautiful things. Tunneling, for instance, where particles pass through barriers they should not cross, not by breaking the rules but by obeying the rules of uncertainty. In the quantum world, a particle's position is not exact. Its wave function extends beyond barriers, however small. And if the barrier is thin enough, the particle's presence can leak through, appearing on the other side without crossing in any classical way. This is not magic. It is motion through possibility. It is reality choosing a different route, one only available in shadow. Or take entanglement again. two particles sharing a state so deeply that measuring one instantaneously determines the other. They are not communicating. They are coexisting in a space of mutual definition. When one is touched by reality, the other responds, even across distance. The wave functions are woven together. This does not break the speed of light. It bypasses the need to send signals at all. It suggests that what is real is not local but extended, that identity is shared, that parts of the universe do not just exist beside each other, but within each other's definitions. All of this happens in a world so small we can never see it directly. We build machines, cyclotrons, interferometers, Josephson junctions, that let us hear the echoes of these truths. And yet, the closer we look, the more softly the world speaks. The sharper our questions, the gentler the answers. And perhaps that is why this story is best told in quiet tones, not because it is vague, but because it is profound. The shadows between reality and possibility are not shadows of confusion. They are shadows of freedom. They allow particles to exist in multiple states at once. They allow transitions to happen without paths. They allow light to be both wave and particle, not alternately but simultaneously. They allow us to build lasers, quantum computers, atomic clocks, and theories of everything. And still, they do not show us their full face. They keep something hidden, not out of cruelty, but because mystery is part of their language. Because knowing everything would mean closing all doors. And the quantum world prefers to leave some doors gently ajar. You too are made of these possibilities. Your thoughts, your choices, your very being arise from electrons in superposition, from ions moving in waves, from chemistry guided by chance. Your memory, your perception, your language, all shaped by neurons firing with probabilistic rhythm. You do not feel this. You feel solid, continuous, real. But beneath that feeling lies fluidity, lies openness, lies a dance of shadow and becoming. And this is not cause for fear. It is cause for grace. Because if we are shaped by possibility, then we are never fully finished. We are not locked into paths. We are not bound by certainty. We too collapse into being only when observed, only when chosen. And each moment is another choice, another folding of possibility into presence, another step from might be into is. So let yourself drift in this space a little longer. Let the shadow feel soft, not sharp. Let the unanswered remain unthreatening. The quantum world does not fear uncertainty. It is made of it, and perhaps so are we. Now let us rest in the softest part of this journey, where the known has quietly stepped back and the possible stands just ahead, veiled and waiting. This is not the end of a path but the edge of one. A place where reality, as we experience it, meets something more flexible, something unfinished. The shadows between what is and what might be are not voids. They are gentle corridors filled with breath and space and choice. And the deeper we look into them, the more we realize they are not cracks in the world's certainty. They are its foundation. Everything begins here. Every moment, every motion, every thought begins not as fact but as potential. In classical physics, objects exist with certainty. They have position, momentum, trajectory. We can trace their past and predict their future. But quantum mechanics invites us to release that expectation. It tells us, certainty is an illusion built on scale. That beneath it all, at the level where atoms whisper and electrons drift, everything is wrapped in probabilities. Nothing is decided until it must be. And even then, the decision is not absolute. It is contextual, relational, shaped by who is looking and how. There is no objective stage with actors moving across it. There is only interaction, only becoming. This becoming is not chaotic. It is structured, exquisitely mathematical. The rules that govern the transitions from possibility to reality are not random. They follow patterns, symmetries, constraints. A particle cannot do everything. It can only do what is allowed. But within those boundaries, the choice is soft. It does not declare itself until asked, until light touches it, until time pushes it forward, until observation narrows the field and causes the wave to fall into a point. That point is not the truth. It is a truth, one among many that might have been. And what becomes of the others? Where do the unchosen possibilities go? Do they dissolve like mist at dawn, or do they live on in some quieter way? Some physicists propose the many worlds interpretation, where every outcome is realized, each in its own universe. In this view, reality is not a single thread but an endless braid, with each quantum event causing a split. You wake in this world, but others wake in all the others, each just as real. It is a breathtaking idea, unprovable but not impossible, a testament to the richness of the shadow space, to the idea that possibility never truly dies. And even if that is not how it works, even if only one outcome is real, the rest are still part of the process. The wave function contains them. They inform the probabilities. They are the soil from which the actual grows. Without the other possibilities, the real one cannot exist. They are part of its meaning, part of its weight. Like unrealized dreams that shape our choices, like words we never said that still echo in the decisions we make. The unchosen paths are not wasted. They are the silence that makes the music. This principle reaches into everything, into chemistry, where electrons form bonds not through certainty but through shared space, into biology, where molecules fold in probabilistic paths to become proteins, into cognition, where the brain fires not like a machine but like a cloud of patterns. Our entire experience is built not on fixed facts but on statistical truths, outcomes rising from complex, layered potentials. The body does not require certainty to live. It only requires rhythm, balance, emergence. It thrives on what might be, selecting just enough of it to move forward, to adapt, to grow. Even memory, that most human of processes, is touched by this softness. Neuroscientists tell us memories are not fixed records but reconstructed stories, pieced together each time we recall them. They are shaped by emotion, by context, by the act of remembering itself. In this way, memory behaves like a quantum state, fluid until observed, altered by the observation. The past is not unchangeable. It is fragile, living in flux, and so too is the self. We are not static beings, but waveforms collapsing into identity moment by moment, shaped by light, by pressure, by time. And yet through all of this motion and uncertainty, something solid still emerges. Reality does not fall apart just because it is built on shadows. In fact, it holds together because of them. Quantum systems decohere, particles entangle and then release. Outcomes emerge. The shadow gives way to shape, just long enough for us to walk, to breathe, to know. The world does not demand we understand every corner. It only asks us to witness. And in that witnessing, possibility becomes presence. This transformation from potential to particular is not a breaking, it is a blooming. It is a gentle narrowing of focus, a soft agreement between the universe and the observer. You see a tree not because it is the only form it could be, but because it is the one that arrived when you looked. And beneath its leaves, the molecules still hum with chance. The electrons still hover in clouds. The photons that touch your eyes still carry uncertainty. The world does not harden because we notice it. It only pauses its motion long enough for us to greet it. So many things in life mirror this process. A decision made at the last moment, a word spoken instead of withheld, a journey taken not with certainty but with hope. We do not know what will come, but we choose again and again to collapse the wave, to say, this is my path, this is my shape, this is my version of the possible turned real, and the universe responds gently without resistance. It offers no judgment. It allows the outcome to unfold, and then it begins again. In this way, the shadows between reality and possibility are not barriers. They are bridges. They are invitations to see the world not as static but as evolving, not as locked but as open. They ask us to loosen our grip, to let go of needing every answer, to trust that uncertainty is not an absence but a richness, that what we call confusion may actually be a sign of depth, that the unknown is not a void but a cradle. And so, as you rest now in the stillness of this thought, remember that you are not separate from these shadows. You live in them. You carry them. Every breath you take, every heartbeat, every moment of silence holds infinite futures waiting to be chosen. You are not just walking through the world. You are shaping it gently, with your attention, with your noticing, with your willingness to not always know and still go forward. Let that be enough. Let the unchosen rest. Let the chosen breathe. The world beneath the world is vast and soft and filled with shadow, and in that shadow everything waits patiently, beautifully for light. Somewhere in the quiet folds of the universe, there is a bond that defies the ordinary rules of separation. Two particles, once touched by the same moment, drift apart, yet carry with them a memory of togetherness so perfect that space no longer matters. They move across oceans of emptiness, across galaxies even, and still respond to one another as though they had never let go. This is not fantasy. It is not the language of myths or dreams. It is the delicate reality of quantum entanglement, a phenomenon that rests at the heart of everything, yet is whispered about with the reverence reserved for secrets too strange to be fully understood. Entanglement begins softly. When two particles interact in the right way through collision or shared birth or resonance, their states become linked. No longer can one be described without the other. They become a pair, a unit, a duet. Their spins, their polarizations, their probabilities, these are no longer their own. They belong to the system as a whole. You cannot know one without invoking the other. And from that moment on, they behave like mirrors that do not require light. What one becomes, the other becomes too, even if they are flung to opposite ends of the cosmos, as if space itself has grown transparent between them. Einstein once called this spooky action at a distance. He did not like it. He believed nature must have hidden variables, secret instructions buried deep within particles, guiding them to behave as if entangled when in truth they had always known what to do. But experiments proved otherwise. Again and again, with careful tests and entangled photons, scientists watched as measurement on one particle instantaneously determined the fate of the other. No signal passed between them. No message was sent. The change was too fast for that. It was not communication. It was correlation, so deep and immediate that even the speed of light had no role to play. This is the strange beauty of entanglement. It is not bound by the geometry of our lives. It does not care about distance. It laughs gently at the edges we draw around things. For the entangled, separation is an illusion. What matters is connection. What matters is relationship. A truth that sings quietly beneath the surface of physics and poetry alike. Because perhaps, just perhaps, we too carry this kind of link. Perhaps in the dream state of thought and feeling, we reach each other across the spaces we believe are impassable. Imagine two photons born together in a crystal. They are not like twins in appearance but in resonance. Their polarizations are not set until they are measured, but they are set together. If one is found to be vertical, the other must be horizontal. If one spins up, the other must spin down. Not because they agreed beforehand, but because they are one state expressed in two places. And when a scientist measures one of them, perhaps in Paris, perhaps in Tokyo, the other instantly reflects the result. It is not delayed, it is not gradual, it happens in the same breath, as if breath too had no boundaries. This does not mean that entanglement allows us to send messages faster than light. It is subtler than that. It does not let us control the outcome of a measurement. It only ensures that when one outcome is known, the other is already shaped. The universe does not allow cheating. It does not allow paradoxes, but it does allow intimacy. It allows a kind of hidden coherence, a silent agreement that stretches across the empty places and ties them into meaning. This coherence is not fragile. It persists until disturbed. And once it is disturbed, once one particle interacts with the environment, with a detector, with a curious gaze, the entanglement breaks. Decoherence sets in and the paired nature of the state dissolves. What was once shared becomes separate again. The magic ends. The song fades. But before that moment, while entanglement still holds, the system exists in a state so perfectly balanced that it defies the idea of individuality. It is not 1 plus 1. It is something other, something joined. And so we begin to see entanglement not as a curiosity but as a principle, as a whisper that all things may be linked more deeply than they appear. Not just particles but events, not just events but choices. The quantum world is a place of interdependence, not isolation, and we, made of its elements, shaped by its rules, are not exceptions. Perhaps when we dream of people we have not seen in years, when we feel the presence of someone across time zones and silence, we are feeling the faint echoes of this deeper joining. Not provable but poetic, not measurable but meaningful. Scientists have harnessed entanglement to build technologies that once belonged to fiction. Quantum teleportation, for instance, uses entangled particles to transfer a quantum state from one place to another, destroying the original in the process. It is not teleportation of matter but of information. It requires a classical signal alongside the quantum link. But still, it is real. It has been done. And it proves that entanglement is more than mystery. It is method. It is a tool we can reach for, even as we marvel at its nature. Quantum key distribution uses entanglement to create unbreakable encryption. If two parties share entangled particles, they can generate a secret key that no eavesdropper can intercept without disturbing the system and revealing their presence. It is not only secure, it is fundamentally private. Because in the quantum world, observation always leaves a mark, and privacy is no longer just a right. It is a law of nature. All of this tells us that entanglement is not an abstract idea. It is woven into the fabric of possibility, into the stars that form, into the atoms that bind, into the tools we build from our dreams. And perhaps when we speak of entanglement with metaphors, when we say two people are connected across distance, that a feeling lingers despite years, that a choice echoes beyond its time, we are not being fanciful. We are speaking the language of the universe without knowing it. A language that understands that bonds do not weaken with space. That once joined, some things remain aware of each other, even in the absence of touch. So rest now in the presence of this idea. Imagine two particles drifting slowly in opposite directions, untouched by wind or gravity. Imagine that inside each of them there is still a memory of the other, a quantum cord stretched between their states, a silent vibration that sings when observed, a song not of location but of alignment. And know that this is not fantasy. This is truth, whispered in numbers and confirmed in light. We are not so far from the stars. We are not so far from each other. The space between things may seem empty, but it is filled with relation, with entanglement, with a strange and quiet kind of love. Let's drift deeper into the invisible strands that hold this quiet universe together. Entanglement does not shout. It does not demand to be seen. It reveals itself only in stillness when the right conditions are made, when nature is allowed to whisper its hidden structures into our waiting ears. It does not bring answers wrapped in neat paper. It brings echoes. It brings questions that glow like stars behind thin clouds, never fully caught, always quietly burning. At its heart, entanglement is a story of connection, a connection that begins without wires or ropes or proximity. It begins with a meeting, a moment when two quantum entities, often indistinguishable, interact so closely that they become defined not by themselves but by each other. This is not sentiment, it is math. A shared wave function is written. Their probabilities become intertwined. Their outcomes are no longer independent. Their identity becomes relational. Even when they part, they remain defined by that shared beginning. One is never again simply one. It is half of a larger whole. This strange relationship defies our common ways of thinking. In the world we walk through daily, things are local. They touch only what is near. A cause has an effect, and that effect spreads through space at limited speed. But in the quantum world, these lines bend. Entanglement stretches over space without traveling. It does not send information, but it establishes a kind of simultaneous knowing. It's not that one particle tells the other what it has become. It's that both have always been part of the same unfolding sentence. Read one word, and the rest is understood. In the laboratories of the world, entanglement has become more than theory. Scientists have entangled photons, electrons, even small groups of atoms. They have watched as the fate of one reveals the fate of the other instantly, clearly, again and again. These particles are separated by meters, by kilometers, even by satellites orbiting the Earth. And still, the bond remains. It's as if space itself does not quite know how to separate them, as if space can stretch but not sever. What was once joined still breathes together. The implications are vast and strange. If reality behaves this way at its core, then separateness is not the fundamental truth. The universe may not be built from isolated parts but from systems, from patterns, from relationships. You cannot point to a particle and say what it is unless you also know what its partner is doing. Meaning emerges from correlation. Existence itself may be woven from entangled states, layered and intersecting, forming the textured quilt of what we call real. There are interpretations that take this further, that say perhaps the entire universe began entangled and still is, that the Big Bang was not just an explosion of matter and energy, but of relationships, wave functions overlapping, defining each other in a cosmic tangle that spans time. In this view, we are not just observers of a quantum world. We are pieces of it. Every atom in your body may be quietly entangled with something else, far away, shaping and shaped. Not in a way we can manipulate, not in a way that can be used, but in a way that means we are never entirely alone. It may sound romantic, but the science supports the poetry. Quantum field theory shows us that particles are excitations of fields that stretch across all of space. These fields are everywhere, even in what seems like emptiness. And so, when particles emerge and interact, they are already part of a shared medium. They are already touching. Entanglement is not an exception. It is the rule, the baseline, the background music playing behind every event. And so we return to the thought that perhaps, in some fragile way, this physics mirrors something in us. That human connection, too, has echoes of entanglement. That relationships, between people, between memories, between moments, are not just emotional metaphors but reflections of the fabric of the world. When two people meet and change each other, even if they part, that change remains. Their futures are different now. Their stories are braided. They carry traces of each other's influence, long after the voices have faded. Even dreams reflect this. How often do we dream of someone only to feel they are thinking of us too? How often do we sense the presence of another across great distance without explanation? Science cannot measure this. It does not need to. But perhaps there is something in our biology, some faint resonance, some trace of quantum entanglement in our neurons, our chemistry, our shared origin, that lets us remain aware, however faintly, of those we've touched deeply. Entanglement may be physical, but it feels emotional too. The boundary between these categories may not be so rigid. Consciousness is built from physical processes, firing neurons, shifting ions, electrical pulses shaped by quantum scales. We do not yet understand how thought emerges from matter, but we know that the building blocks of mind are not classical. They are quantum. They exist in uncertainty, in entanglement, in probabilities. Could it be that awareness itself is born from coherence? That what we call presence is a kind of collapse? That our choices ripple outward, not in force but in influence? There is a concept called quantum coherence. When a system maintains its entangled state, its delicate structure, despite noise and chaos, it is difficult to preserve. The world is full of interference, but living systems seem to protect coherence for moments. In photosynthesis, plants capture light using quantum effects. In the navigation of birds, entanglement may guide them. Even the brain, it has been proposed, may maintain fleeting quantum states. These are early ideas, uncertain, debated. But they suggest that nature finds value in entanglement. It is not just odd, it is useful, perhaps even essential. And what is coherence if not a kind of harmony? A way for parts to hold together, to move as one, even when surrounded by disorder. In this way, entanglement offers a lesson beyond physics. It reminds us that connection is not weak, it is strong. That being influenced by another is not a loss of self, but an expansion. That the spaces between us are not empty, they are filled with the quiet threads of shared becoming. Let this idea settle in you. Let it stretch its gentle arms across the distances you have known, the people you've lost, the voices you still carry, the decisions that ripple backward into memory and forward into the unknown. Perhaps nothing is ever truly separate. Perhaps every goodbye is only a pause in coherence. Perhaps, like particles once entangled, we still reflect each other, silently, faithfully, no matter how far we drift. There is comfort in that, Not proof, but poetry. Not certainty, but symmetry. The universe does not rush to explain itself. It leaves room for wonder. It gives us entanglement not just to measure, but to feel. And maybe that is enough. Let's return now to the quiet place where this story began, where two particles once brushed past one another and something invisible but lasting was formed. That meeting was brief, so small it could never be seen with any eye. And yet, from it grew a connection so enduring that even the vast emptiness of space could not erase it. The bond held, not as a chain or a signal, but as a rhythm, a memory written into the way each particle moves, thinks, becomes. And this, perhaps, is what makes entanglement so quietly beautiful, that it is a kind of memory without mass, a kind of closeness without contact, a kind of knowing that doesn't ask permission from time or distance. In this final drift through the quantum world, we see that entanglement does not belong to particles alone. It is part of the universe's deeper pattern. It is the reason stars form together in galaxies, the reason light curves gently around gravity, the reason silence still carries something of sound. And maybe, too, it is why we dream of those long gone or feel someone's thought before they speak. Not because the physics demands it, but because the metaphor echoes so closely with what we feel to be true. Entanglement teaches us that wholeness does not always look like unity. It can be separation laced with connection, distance wrapped in meaning. In a world that often seems fragmented, this is a kind of peace, that something touched once can never be completely untied, that the traces we leave on one another are real, even if invisible, that your story and mine may ripple through each other softly, endlessly, like entangled waves. So when you next think of someone and they call, or remember a moment and feel it bloom fresh inside you, know that science, too, holds space for the unseen, that the universe was built to carry the weight of relationship, that even in a vacuum, even between stars, connection is the rule, not the exception. The thread is always there, quiet, gentle, waiting. And so this story folds into stillness, not with answers but with resonance, the kind that lingers, the kind that reminds you you are never truly alone,